Good morning to all of you, Professor Bhaskaran, President of GD Goenka, and the eminent faculty I can see here, and students and parents. I'm extremely happy to be here, and I'll first say I'm so glad that I've had an opportunity to come to GD Goenka University, because for the past couple of years, there are many students who ask me about the university, and other than talking to them about what I read in the newspaper or in brochures, I haven't had first-hand experience of being able to represent to them something of what happens in this university. To begin with, when you drive in, it's a hugely impressive campus. And that, I would say, is wonderful. And of course, now meeting with some of the faculty members and seeing some of their educational qualifications, I can see that you're certainly on very firm ground here. So I'd like to give a big round of applause to GD Goenka University. I'm very happy to be able to be associated with an institution that values education and, as Professor Bhaskaran very rightly said, also looks at value education itself. Thank you. Okay, I'm here to talk to you, and I know there are many students who have just cleared board exams and are looking at what they can do ahead. Isn't that so? Can I request many of those, particularly students, to come to this part of becomes easier for me to address you all, please? If I may request, because there are lots of empty. Thank you. Yes, at least students, that'll be nice. Thank you. Okay, now students, most of you are class 12 pass outs. You've just finished class 12. Anybody who's studying class 10 or 11 or still in class 12? Okay, which class are you in? 9th, okay. Anybody, and you? 11th. Anybody in college? Okay. 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 And you there? You're in this university? Okay, very good. Okay. In general, this presentation and this talk is really about looking ahead at what you can do. And we look at a global world because that's the way it's emerging, and the digital technologies are such that it's come very close to us. But right now we're also at a period when, if you can see, we're at a very, very important stage in our country where in the next 5 years we're really going to know how we're moving forward. And I'm not talking about just politically. It's about the economy. We talk in terms of having jobs, but yet there's a huge amount of joblessness as well. But let us look at really what we can do. And again, I would say Professor Bhaskaran seems to be on the same wavelength when he talks about not looking at 5 years or 10 years. None of us can tell you what jobs will be there in 5 years, but developing yourselves to take on whatever may come on in the years ahead. So when we start by looking at a global world, you can see, and many students are surprised when I tell them there are more than 50,000 career opportunities available, much more. In this country, we've only really looked at 5: engineering, medicine, law, business management, civil services. And up to now, I have many parents who, when I mention even mass communication, will say, "Uski kuch career ban sakta hai? You know, is it a safe career?" So we need to look beyond and see, yes, there are huge opportunities. and 50,000 is putting it conservatively because there are ones growing. And maybe you young people can tell me, what are some of the new careers you've heard about? Anybody? Something new? Okay, now this is an interactive session. I'm not going to speak all the time. I want you to respond as well. Yes? Very good. Social media. Just that. Within social media, there's social media marketing, there are digital technologies, there are mobile app development. So within just that social media, there are 3 things which wasn't there even maybe 5 years ago. So if you look at it, we don't know. There'll be many new ones. You know, at one time we talked about clouds in the sky. Today, everybody talks about cloud computing, and I sometimes wonder when my son tells me, Mom, you've got so much information, put it on the cloud. And I'm old-fashioned, and I wonder, where will that cloud eventually go to, and will I be able to find it? But today, young people are talking about it quite easily. So yes, we must start looking out. Even though, as you can see, the traditional careers are still around, whether it's law, CA, engineering, medicine, design, could be even computers, engineering, mass communication, hotel management, civil services. These are the ones that we normally think about. But new ones, like we said, social media, luxury brand management, digital e-commerce, mobile app development, many, many more that come up. You're going into forensic sciences, space research, any number of areas that we are looking at, mobile app development, game design. So what we're going to do this morning is start looking out and beyond. I was just doing a little study of careers of the future. And it surprised me when they said by 2025, 1/3 of all jobs will be performed by software, robots, and smart machines. Already, the phone is the smart machine. It's far smarter than I am, I know. It does things that even my 4-year-old grandson can maneuver and outmaneuver me on it. So it is pretty smart. But these machines are going to get smarter. And while there are people like you who will be programming many of these machines, we have to know how are we going to handle those kind of jobs. The second point we look at other than jobs is you. And this is where many young people don't look at careers. I have many who tell me, ma'am, which is the best job? Is there a best job? Is there a best career? Anybody? Is there a best career? No. Or, you know, which is the job which will get me, as many kids want, lots of money. Money is a very important aspect for lots of young people. Okay. Or, you know, what kind of, what are the different careers which have huge growth? All that information is available on the internet. You Google search it, they'll tell you which are the top 10 careers, they'll tell you what is the growth prospects in 20 years, they'll tell you how much you can earn, not earn. But you're still left with the question, you or I? What can I do? And which one is the career that I can have? I may have all the information in the world, but if I don't know what I can do, you're still at a pretty bleak point. So, as you look ahead, you young people are at a very, very important stage. It's a fantastic opportunity for you right now, because you are really at the start of what we call the rest of your lives. And what you do now and plan now will really affect you for the next 40 years. There are some of you who know exactly what you want to do. I know I'm doing engineering, or I know I'm doing law or fashion design. Fine, you've already planned it, you've programmed it, you're going ahead with it. And there are many who don't know or want to take a break and maybe get some work experience, maybe try out something, take a gap year. It's become quite common now for young people to want to do that. But the majority are still confused. And when they come and tell me that, actually I'm very happy. Because you should be confused. I am still confused many, many years from now, because the opportunities around you are so immense and very difficult to figure out which is the right path, that it's obvious that you will be confused. So, what are you really wondering about? Some of the kind of questions you must be asking yourself. After college, what next? What if I do a B.Tech or I do Eco Honors? What next? Where will my degree get me? The other day I was hearing about from a young student said, if I do my MBA from this B school, I'll be earning maybe 5,000 more than I'm getting. If I do it from that B school, I may get 20,000 more than what I'm earning. Okay, so you have some ideas of what, but in general, if I do a BCA or I do a B.Tech, where will it get me in either case? If I do a course in communication or I do a BA in psychology, where will that get me? What can I do after that? These are some of the questions many of you must be asking. What do other graduates do? What are they doing when they finish their studies? And as many look for, can I do something different? There are many who come and say, ma'am, sab to B.Com karte hain, sab to ye kar lete hain. I want to do something different. Okay. So, what is that something different? Okay. So let's see, where do you go from here? Broadly, if you're looking at options, the way to look at it, there are three basic choices for you. A specialist program, a base degree, or a vocational course. Let's look at each in detail. Specialist program, that means that you more or less know which area of work you want to get into, and therefore you want to do a course in that. So you could be somebody who's decided I'm doing fashion design, and you sit for the design exams to get into a design institute, or you're looking at architecture or engineering or medicine. It's a specialist program or a professional program. You've already made up your mind that's what you want to do. Or you could even look at degrees like economics. It could be as a specialist. I want to be an economist. So I'm doing a BA, an MA, and maybe a PhD in economics, or in statistics, or in history. So this is what we call a specialist program. So we take it up as a specialist. Most people who do this have a pretty firm or clear idea as to what they want to do. The second is those who may not know what they want to do professionally, but have some ideas of what areas they want to work in, and therefore they want to complete a kind of a base on which they can then build some possible futures. So this could be a base in economics, which means economics or commerce related areas, and you're broadly looking into management kind of degree, professional courses. It could be in the sciences, physics, chemistry, applied sciences. It could be into political science, history, psychology, any of those kind of subjects. And it gives you 3 more years to decide on what you might want to do. After that, with a base degree, and let me tell you, there are many who now even look at engineering as a base degree. I remember reading a rather crypt forward which said in India, everybody does engineering before they decide which career to take up. And that was prevalent till many years ago. So, and I have many students who've done engineering and said, I have fulfilled Papa's requirement. Now you tell me what I want to do, this is what I may want to do, and these are the other things. So engineering can also be a base degree. What I'm saying is, base means it gives you a foundation of knowledge, and then you build on that. And remember, no knowledge is lost. Every knowledge gives you some skills. So you use that for whatever future you might want to do. And after that, that future could be a postgraduate degree, an MTech, or a MA, or a PhD after that. It also could be a vocational course, a PG in design, or a PG in travel and tourism, or something in luxury brand management, or some data analytics course that you want to take up. So it could be anything once you have a base on which you can build. And then, of course, the final is for those who really don't want to study. There's nothing wrong with that. And I have many students who say, "Bas ho gaya. I don't want to study. I want to do something," and they've already got an idea what they want to do. It could be art, I want to do drawing, and maybe try out something. I want to set up a business. I may want to do something in wildlife. I had a student who was very fond of animals and decided that she was going to set up a pet grooming little enterprise, and she's pretty successful at that today. So again, looking at things which don't necessarily require an academic qualification, and side by side, just to play safe, you do a degree through correspondence. So these are basically the ways in which it's best to think about. Okay, so now let's look at what some of those career options can be, and I'm generally just going to buzz through some career choices, going by what subjects you have been taking up, and focusing more on some of the new areas that we might think about, okay? Okay, how many of you have done science, physics, chemistry, maths? Okay. Now, what do you want to do? Game design, very good. What about you? Computer science, yes? Sorry? Software, okay, very good. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay, now there are two things I want you to keep in mind. Maths, physics, chemistry are great subjects to have, no doubt, but not essential. And to this day, I'm 20 years, I'm working in this field, and I still have to tell parents there is no hierarchy of subjects. This is really very clear caste delineations as far as subjects are concerned, and it really upsets me. Maybe because I'm not a science student, possibly, but I haven't done too badly and I haven't missed not doing science. But everyone thinks science is up there. Yes, if that is your subject. Amartya Sen or Dr. Manmohan Singh didn't do science, and they are among the most eminent economists we can hear about. And there are many others. So, firstly, forget about science being all-encompassing. The other argument I get from many parents, but ma'am, science करने के बाद में तो सभी opportunities आ जाते हैं. No, not necessarily. Only if you need science, then those opportunities are valid. It's like going into, I always say, Baskin-Robbins ice cream parlor. 100 varieties of ice cream. But you say, I really only like chocolate with chocolate fudge. Do you need to go into a place that has 100? No. I'm sure your local thelawala will still give you your chocolate ice cream. So it's best to go for what you know, comfortable with, and which will lead you into your focus areas. Okay, so having said that, science is an area that you can really do lots with. Most people only look at engineering, but there are many areas. You can be a pilot, you can get into merchant navy, you can get into outer space. Engineering is one area, certainly is a good area if you're interested in it, but keep in mind today there are more than 14 lakh engineering seats. 14 lakhs. And 14 lakh students, or rather pass out, 14 lakh students. That's the figure I was given. I think there are more than 14 lakh seats, but there are 14 lakh engineering graduates that pass out. 1 lakh get jobs. 14 lakhs are unemployable. So either you get into a good institute to do engineering, or forget about engineering. Because there are many other things you can do with science. And what are those? And in engineering itself, be very clear what you want to do. Not just IT. I have a nephew who works in Microsoft, and he was telling me, we look for lots of kids who do programming. You do programming, we'll give you a job. But you will stay in that job and you will continue to do programming for the rest of your life. If you're happy to do that, unless you have something else that you can do, you'll always be with a job. You'll have enough food on the table and you'll have a nice house and you'll do well. But you will do programming for the rest of your life. So there will always be programming jobs. Now you have to be clear what you want to do even in IT. So what are some of the other engineering areas? Look at new areas. I'm happy to note that you have a course in mechatronics here. This is it's a new field that's coming up, and I have a couple of students who've gone out. They went to Canada and the US to do it, are doing brilliantly. Mechatronics is a combination of mechanical and electronics, and is one of the new engineering fields. Biomedical, again, a very good field, particularly because there is such huge advancements being made in medicine. And these, I would say, are some of the new areas that you could look at rather than the usual mechanical, civil, chemical engineering. Okay, computers, start looking at some of these areas, and for many of these, you actually don't even need engineering. You get into cloud computing or artificial intelligence, data analytics. These are the growth areas, the new areas for which there is huge opportunities. Other areas for students of science, acoustical engineering, sound engineering, a good field if you want to work, particularly in the music scene or in the music and film areas. Air traffic controller, with all the airports growing, there's a demand for these people, biophysics, and many, many more. I'm just giving you a bird's eye view. By the way, if there are any of you who have questions or want a little more information or anything else, please raise your hand and I'll answer it there and then. Of course, I'll also take questions after this. Okay, quickly, we're just going through this because I want to get to ask you and tell you about how we make those kind of plans. Okay, getting back to science, physics, chemistry, biology. How many of you are bio students, medical students? Okay. Are you preparing for NEET? No. Why did you do biology? Paramedical. Very good. Excellent. What about you? Sorry?
I'm in the first year.
First year of?
SOM. BBA course, management course.
I didn't hear that? Management. Sorry, I thought you had your hand up?
Yeah.
No. You're doing bio? You did bio. Okay, and now you're in management. Okay, very good. What are the things you can do? Again, it's not only medicine. Everybody thinks that if I do bio, I have to do medicine. No, I must tell you that some of the fields are growing. The paramedical, I'm happy to say, huge demand. Particularly, as you know, practically everybody needs to go for some checkup or the other, and therefore you need technicians, specialists that are handling all of these, radiography, lab technologies, etc. Pharmacy, huge area with the growth of the pharmaceutical business. And now, again, this is an area which you can combine with a management if you want to work in the corporate sector. After doing a B.Pharm, you could even get into that or work in any of the pharmaceutical companies or with the government on drug control. Veterinary and animal science, this is getting a lot of prominence, more because we're now going so much into protecting our animals. And like I told you, I had a young girl who actually left. She had done an MBA, was working 2 years with a big corporate, and after 2 years, she just dropped it, and she came and she said, she had actually brought her sister for counseling, and she told me, she said, I've set up a pet grooming clinic, and she said, I make more money than I did and she was with a big, she was with McKinsey. So let me tell you, it was quite a jump. But she's happy doing what she's doing. I have another student who loves animals, didn't want to just work as a vet, and because she didn't have science, but wanted to get into working in a zoo. She's actually working with the World Wildlife Fund in helping conserve and on the tiger project. So what I'm saying is, if you have an interest, there are opportunities for you to get ahead. Food science, now this is an area which I must tell you, many students don't regard this because it's not a field that is of much prominence, but in this country where the agricultural sector is so huge, and we're at a point where there's so much farmer distress because they can't sell their produce, a lot of the agri-business companies are coming in, and that is a big sector. Food processing. I had a young student who suddenly came, accosted me at Chandigarh airport, and she said, ma'am, I'm currently doing my MBA at IIM Ahmedabad, and I want to thank you. So I said, why do you want to thank me? She said, I was sitting for, I was a bio student, I was sitting for NEET, at that time it was PMT. I couldn't get into any medical college, and I remembered you had said these were the other options with bio subjects. So I went into food science. I did dairy technology at Karnal, and then I joined Nestle's in Moga. I was working there for 2 years. When I saw this program in IIM Ahmedabad on MBA in Agri-Business Management. So I said, let me apply for it. And she said, I didn't do that well in CAT, but my experience in the dairy sector was good because I don't think there was any other candidate who had actually got the kind of experience I had. So I've now in IIM Ahmedabad, and Nestle has already told me they want me back at double my salary, and I have many other ways in which I'm looking at other opportunities as well. So this is certainly a big area and worth looking at. Okay. And many other things like forensics or floriculture, horticulture, oceanography. If you're going into the sciences, biochemistry, microbiology, and many fields in that area. Okay. Commerce. How many commerce students here? Only one? Okay. Anyway, commerce again is a subject which is much maligned because people think everybody who can't do science does commerce. Not necessarily so. You need to want to do science, otherwise, frankly, it can be a pretty boring subject, making money. But nevertheless, for many, it excites you. Great. The other thing is you don't need to have done commerce to get into a commerce course. You can still do a BBA or BCom or Eco Honors with any subject stream that you come from in class 12. That's very clear. There is only DU because it's more an elimination process there that require maths. In most other colleges and universities, they don't even require that. So with commerce, you really can do anything which is commercial. You can become a chartered accountant. You can become a chartered accountant even without having done maths. If you're basically good in accounts and number work, you could get into that. Company secretary, actuarial science. Does anybody know what actuarial science is? It's today one of the highest paying professions. Yes, very good. Designing of policies, but more to work out what is the premium paid by people depending on a variety of different factors. It's like saying that if I take an insurance on a car, what the premium I pay would be different to that paid by somebody who may be younger, who may have had many more accidents or not, or has a very expensive car. All of those factors, the person who calculates all those factors and then works those out is called an actuary. And you've got to be very good in maths, and if you are and you qualify through the Actuaries of India exams, you can stand to get a very good job with an insurance company. Then areas of banking and finance. Yesterday I had a young lady who came for counseling, and among the motivating factors of the exercise that she was doing, money was very strongly number one. So I said, she said, ma'am, which job will earn me the most money? You tell me that, then I can decide what I want to do. So I said, well, I'm not sure I know specifically, but I know if you're into investment banking, there are huge bucks to be made there. Of course, huge risk. I'll go for investment banking, was her prompt reply. But it is one of the careers that can earn you a huge amount of money, but of course, you have to be very good at that. Many other areas like business management. Today, business management is everything. Everyone wants to do an MBA. There are 4,000 MBA institutes, not all good, so please be careful on how you choose. And if you choose a good one, you can have a very good career ahead, no doubt about that. And many other areas, new areas, like we were talking about digital marketing, e-commerce. Today, everything is being done on the websites, and therefore, getting into that field is very good and new. And then with any stream, what can you do? Irrespective of what you do, there are many, many things you can do. If you look at that, mass communication, the advertising, journalism, public relations, film and TV, huge opportunities. Today is the mass media era. Everything is out in the open, including our own personal lives. So now if you can dress it up, it certainly is a good opportunity. I'm happy to note that in this university, you have a dean here who worked with me, and rather I would say she taught me a lot of what I know about mass communication, about making a film and putting it together. We worked together. Ritu Malik was wonderful, and given the fact that I went on to do a huge number of films, thank you, and won a couple of awards, I think credit goes to Ritu. So if you're looking at mass comm, I think this is a good place to look at that thing, because I'm sure she'll give you exactly all that you need to know to have a very successful career. Okay, so, but within mass comm, I think if you're looking at the digital era, and right now, that has moved hugely. And I'm glad I'm no longer in it, because it's so elaborate, and there are so many different areas that you can work in, that if you're interested and if you're good at it, you can actually succeed hugely. Art and design, again, coming up in a very big way. If you can see it yourself, anything that you want today, you hardly use it for long before you want to change. You change your phone, you change your clothes, you change your cars. Why? Because you want new designs all the time. So design has become a huge thing and a huge opportunity. And so when parents tell me, but design mein kuch career, khas career hai, I have to tell them there is. Firstly, both my kids are in design areas, and they love it, and they're doing well. That's not the reason I'm endorsing it, but when I see the opportunities that are available there, I think it is a very good idea to look at it if you have the basic inclination. And that means, of course, you must have the creativity for it. People pay huge amounts just for an idea. You have a good idea, a logo, 5 lakhs minimum for somebody who does a logo for you. These are the kind of monies that you're talking about, even at a very basic level. And then, of course, huge amounts for structures or designs or various other things that you go into. So creativity itself has a huge premium. Develop it if you have the talent. Fashion is one part of the design. And today it's not just fashion. Within fashion, there is accessories, there is luxury brands, there is fashion management, there's fashion marketing, there's fashion communication, fashion journalism. The whole field of fashion has huge opportunities. Hospitality, again, huge area because you know you want to travel. Every summer, everybody's traveling. Earlier on, we went to, Dada Dadi's house or Nana Nani's house, and that's about it. Today, nobody wants to go to family. You want to go to an exotic place, and which means hotels, resorts, and people who manage that. The other day, I came across a young lady who told me that she actually was working on a cruise liner. And I thought, wow. But as she said, it's a tough life. We go on the cruise. She had done a hospitality course and was working in a cruise line. And she said, but the pay is fantastic. You're living in luxury. You're traveling around the world. And we work for 6 months, and then we get 3 months off. And then we can come back again. So these are new areas. I hadn't even heard of that. But I know I certainly have a dream of getting on a cruise someday. So I can imagine how exciting it must be for somebody who wants to work there. Okay. Then, from the subjects that you might study, like we said, those who want to make it into a specialist areas, as a psychologist, a lot of opportunities, a lot of young people I know are wanting to get into it because there are problems, and everybody knows there are problems. How do you face those problems? You normally go to a specialist, a psychologist, and that could be areas that if you have the natural inclination and empathetic to people, that could be a good area. History, good subject. It's more maligned than normal, but I had a student who came from Hindu college who was a history honor student, and he came and he said, ma'am, on campus placements, I got an offer from KPMG. Why would they want a history student? I wondered too. And then I told me, tell me, what have you done? And when he told me what he had done, I was not surprised. Because here was a student, he was on debates, he was in drama, he was on the student council, he was doing all kinds of things, and he was good at his studies. So very often companies don't actually look for a typical commerce background because they're in consulting. They want to look at people who have skills, willing to learn, and have what it takes to be able to build on whatever they have learned. So don't discount. If you like history, you might like to do history as a historian, but you might like to use it as a base degree to do something else. Law, again, is good opportunities, but I find very often people, and particularly parents, look at it as a professional degree, that if my kid is not doing medicine or engineering or business management, at least I can say he's doing law, so law mein laga do usko. Please don't look at it that way. Law is an extremely tough study program. Do law, and don't do law, as many said, I'm very good at arguing. Every youngster is very good at arguing, particularly with parents. But that's no reason to get into law. So look at law if you're good with academics. Do a lot of reading. Have a strong vocabulary and memory. Those are the basics, and of course, strong reasoning ability. I had a student, actually a friend's son who came. She was a lawyer. Her father-in-law was a Supreme Court justice. Her grandfather had been a Supreme Court lawyer. And so everybody in the family were lawyers. Her husband was an advocate general, and the poor boy was put into law. Law to karna hai, that's almost become the family business. After 1 month, he ran away from the course, just ran away and disappeared. And after a few days, he came home, and then she came to me and she said, you have to do something. What did that child love to do? He loved outdoors. Every year, he used to go onto a camp and work with an organization that used to do outdoor adventure. So I told the family, why don't you, doing that? My gosh, you know, for a family of lawyers and jurists and this thing, it was too much. I said, just let him be. We'll get him to do a professional program. So we got him to do hotel management. I said, you know, you can then run a resort that actually encourages, and we can do it in, you know, doing outdoor activities. And let me tell you, 10 years down the line, he not only did that, he ran a very successful catering business. His parents then began to have faith in him. They've given him some money. They've bought some land in Mussoorie. He set up a resort, and he runs a very successful adventure tour company. So what I'm saying is, each one has different capabilities, and therefore, law is a good career, but not everybody becomes Arun Jaitley. Yes. Well, I'm just not as a politician, but as a lawyer. I'm told that for every case, or lawyers at that level, not Arun Jaitley in particular, they charge 2.5 lakhs per hour or something like that. Anyway, so, well, if that's the money, maybe law could be the career if you're looking for money. Okay, so now some new age careers, like we said, things that go into even careers like blogging, YouTubers, and there are many young people who come and say, ma'am, can I be a YouTuber? Okay. One thing I will say for anybody who's looking at things which are performance related, music, dance, sport, keep in mind that it's difficult unless you're at a level at which somebody will pay to watch you. Please be careful, keep it as a hobby. There aren't that many careers, or you can do it in terms of teaching. So music, you may not become a fabulous singer or a musician, but you can teach it if you're ready to do that. If you can't, as a fallback option, only then get into those particular areas. So also with being a YouTuber. What is that? Pummy Auntie? Is that Pummy Auntie? What is it? Huh? A lot of girls are watching that, and they say they all want to be like Pummy Auntie, so not everybody can become that, but these are things you can look at. Okay, many other things. Food styling. Again, a career, actually a career. I did a food program, and that's when I realized I had a food stylist who came in and did things on my show, and I began to realize how these ad companies actually fool us a lot of the time. You know, when ice cream looks so yummy, it's not real ice cream. It's toothpaste made to look like that because it stays even when camera lights are on. So food styling is a big business, and there are many people who you can make a career out of that. Footwear technology, you can be a social entrepreneur, setting up enterprises for people who are not so well off. Media law, I have a student who did law, didn't want to get into the nitty-gritty of constitution, criminal law, is now working with a media company, and she actually handles film work. So doing the legal agreements for film stars and their companies is one area, and she's enjoying it, and you know, she's mixing with all the rich and famous. Okay, so many other careers, and these are things that you should actually explore, because if something interests you, excites you, it could be and could make out to be a good career. I'll tell you a personal experience of a young man who was brought to my office rather reluctantly by his parents, or rather his mother, because he had failed in class 12 and was not interested in continuing studying. He had repeated class 12, but as exams were coming close, his mother found that he was really not interested in studies, and so she was at her wit's end what to do. So she brought him to us, and when I interviewed him and was in the counseling, I discovered that he spent his whole day playing computer games. Whole day. And she said, I can't get him out of it. And this was almost about 10, 12 years ago. So she said, what to do? And he said, मैं तो study नहीं करूँगा. I just will not. I don't like it. I don't want to open my books. So in the course, we found that the thing that he loved, and I did an aptitude test, and he was reasonably bright, could handle study, but just had no interest and no motivation. So we turned around the motivation and said, what if you had to do a career in game design? First time his eyes lit up, and he said, can I actually work in this? I said, yes, there is a field, you can work in it. But, of course, there was a caveat, you have to pass your exams. So, well, then there was a motivation for study, and what finally happened, he actually cleared his 12th board through open school. It was too late to get back onto regular school, open school, but he cleared it. He got into a game design program in the US, and to tell you the truth, I didn't get further from him, so I presumed he was doing okay, until a couple of years ago, he rang me up and he said, ma'am, you remember me? Of course, I didn't, because I have hundreds of students that I deal with regularly. So then he told me what had happened, and I said, yes, what happened? How are you and what you're doing? And I was hopeful and fearful that he might say that, he's had some problems. But he said, ma'am, I have to tell you that I just love that program. I'm into computer game design. Today, I've called to tell you because my one design has just been bought and patented by an American company. I tell you, I had goosebumps just hearing, here was a child that had actually been dropped off the education system. People had lost hope that he would do anything. But he found something he could do, and he actually has made an entire new life out of it. So, really, we need to look at not just jobs, of which there are plenty. All kinds of jobs, it is for you to find them. But be aware. And the next, just if you'll bear with me for 10 minutes, this is the most important part of what I want to tell you. What do you want to be, and how will you get there? There are so many different careers, and how will you find what is the right one for me? Everybody wants success. If you look at people who are successful, let's look at a few. Do you recognize all of these? I presume you do. Students, can you just call them out? Who's up at the top? Virat Kohli, Malala. Do you know who he is? Vikas Khanna. Anybody watches food programs? Okay. Then Deepika. Do you know who he is in the middle? Okay, I presume you read his books. And who's the lady in the corner? Indra Nui. Okay. Now, if you look at these are all successful people because we know of them. Why are they successful? Why would you say they're successful? Sorry? Absolutely correct. Please stand up and say it loudly. Excellent. They're very good at what they're doing, and they've made a success of their lives. Excellent. Please give her a big round of applause. Yeah. You are successful in what you do best. I'm sure if each had to go for something else, they would not be successful. But they found what they could do. Vikas Khanna is in food. Many parents tell me, "Arey, beta ko chef banna hai." Nahi. But he's made a life. He's made it so successful. He's now a Michelin star chef, doing extremely well, and there are many like him. So the important thing is to find what you can do. Yes, sir. We have this teacher here. Really? Wow. Please tell us. Yes. Wonderful.
For admission, he was failed in the interview. We had a very, very, very rigorous interview.
And he failed?
Yeah, he failed it.
Wow.
So when he failed, he was in tears. And in fact, myself and the principal of the institute, we were sitting in the coffee shop, and he came to us and pleaded that in Hindi, and that he is coming from Amritsar and he want to have an admission, he cannot go back. Somewhere or another I have to have admission. So, in fact, seeing his passion, I have put forward to the principal saying that we will try on this boy. And the principal was from UP. He was a retired brigadier. So he said, can we trust? I said, yes, we can try. So on that note, he was given an admission. And he did 3 years. And successfully he completed the program. Whenever I was teaching food and beverage production for him for 3 years. So whenever I teach, his presentation comes in a different way than the classical style. We have to follow a traditional classical French style of teaching. So whenever he presents his food, he presents it in a different form from the beginning. So I have noticed his passion. Whatever he does, he always does it in a different way. Even now, if you look at it in some of the programs, he do a twist on all that.
Yes, very true.
So when he did that program, first he came to Manipal and he told me, sir, I have to do a twist in your teaching.
How
So
lovely.
we did a program that is on the coastal Karnataka.
Oh, okay.
Two shorts, 2 programs we did it. In fact, actually he come and sit in my class, listen to my class, and then he go back to the lab and did a twist on what I taught. So all these are passions which the particular student had from the beginning. So if you have a passion and perseverance, definitely you can achieve the way you want
Absolutely. Thank you. The passion comes if you do something well. And I'm finding, sadly to say, young people, those that have a passion don't pursue it because they feel maybe it won't be recognized for such, or I won't get an opportunity. That's not what people tell me is a good place to go forward. So please, if you have a passion, here's one success story I'm so happy to hear that, because today people considered successful are not just engineers, lawyers, doctors. They would be, like chefs, comedians, authors, people who you would never have dreamt about. But today they're famous because what they do well, and they do it with a certain passion. So how can you become successful? There are just 2 things you have to keep in mind. When you know what you're good at and you love what you do. If you have these 2, there is no way you cannot be successful. There is no way. It will come out in some form. So find a career that combines your talent with your interests. And how do you decide? By figuring out a little bit about yourself, the kind of careers you can get into, and how you can program your options. So find out about yourself. What do you find out about yourself? Abilities, what you're actually good at. There are many students who really don't even know what they're good at. They've been so busy rattoing all the books that they get to study, they haven't had a chance to do anything other than that. And if you have some interests, it doesn't mean that because you love singing that you have to be a singer. But love singing means you have some creative instincts and interests within you. So there could be other interest areas within that area of study. What is the kind of person you are? I've had people one particular young lady who wanted to, passionate about getting into law. Why? Because her whole family was lawyers, and she felt that that's where you earn a lot of money. She couldn't speak. She didn't have the personality to go out to meet people. She was very shy. And there was no way she would make a good lawyer. So when I told her about the careers that she could be good at, which didn't require her to go out and meet a lot of people, there are lots of things you can do. They suddenly found that actually law was not a career which was suited to her. So it's very important to have the kind of personality that matches the requirement for the career and the environment you want to work in. Where do you want to work? How do you want to work? There was a young lady who did engineering, electrical engineering from, I think, Thapar or BITS or somewhere, and then got a job with TVS scooters in Chennai. And after 6 months, she came crying and she said, ma'am, I've done engineering from such an eminent institute and they make me work in a factory. I said, where do engineers work? In an office, ma'am. I said, no. No engineer works in an office. If an engineer wants to become a real engineer, you have to work either in a factory, in a shop floor, or out on the site. She said, oh, that's not what I want to do. So you need to know what is the environment. I'm surprised at how many young people have phones where every bit of information is available, but haven't checked that out. They'll ask me, biotech, ma'am, I want to do biotech. I said, what is biotech all about? Do you know? No, ma'am. Find out. Don't expect others to tell you. Find out. Is that a career that I can actually work in? So research different jobs and careers that you find interesting. At least 5. Find out all. Find out those things and then match your skill sets. And what do you have to find out? The kind of job you will do, hours of work, and many. There are people who BTech who came out of computer engineering and said, ma'am, I don't want to do one more day of programming. Bahut thak gaya. If you don't know engineering and IT means programming, you need to find out. Where will you work? What are the qualifications required? What is the salary and lifestyle? What is the job market? 10 years, what kind of job will I have? So today, 60% of jobs don't ask for any specific degree. So nowhere else in the world do you have people rushing for this course or that course. Some just get, in the American system, you get into a liberal arts program. You do anything that catches your fancy. Some do theater, music, along with some amount of business, and they're trying out things. So if you have a chance, try out, or do a course that you actually like to do. The basic graduation is only evidence of your intellectual capability. So the fact that you have been able to clear graduation means you're at some base level, and people look for that. Most employers look at how you use your skills. And many careers like this don't ask for any specific qualifications. Okay. So these are open to people from any stream, from any qualification. That is the reason why people after 5 years can change. You can do, lawyers become chefs, chefs become managers, there are architects who become actors, actresses, there are business people who write books. So it's possible because you can transfer your skills. As Steve Jobs very rightly said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And I think he's the most brilliant example of a person who loved. He was so creative, thought about nothing, and for him, nothing, no rigid structures. He just did what came naturally to him. J.K. Rowling, did you know about that? 12 times her book was rejected before it became a bestseller. There are many students who come to me and say, ma'am, I applied to 5 companies for a job, I didn't get anything. Abhi kya karu? I said, keep applying. Keep applying if that's what you want to do. So you have to be persistent in the area that you want to. Look at Colonel Sanders, did you know that? He only set it up at the age of 65. So, it was rejected more than 1,000 times. And closer home, who's that? Saina Nehwal. She had started with karate because she grew up in Haryana, Kurukshetra. Her father then got posted to Hyderabad and the school didn't have karate. And she was an athletic kind of a person. So they said, why don't you do badminton? And first she didn't want to do badminton. I don't want to do badminton, she'd only learn karate. Then she started badminton at the age of 8. And look at where she has got to. So, you have to pursue, you can achieve success by looking within. You are yourself the person who can do it. And in today's scenario, academic qualifications is only the first step. Only the first step. So all those who look at this piece of paper, who cheat in exams and who try and somehow the other, it doesn't count for anything. And though I applaud anybody who's got 99, 100%, in most cases I would be skeptical of anybody who's got 100%. You cannot be perfect. Nobody is perfect. 100% means you're perfect. So we need to change our system. Yes, you're not to blame. The system is bad. But don't let it be, I get 100%, now I don't need to study anymore. No. It's just a badge. And after that, it has to show value. 3 most important points. What you have learnt. There are many who come, ma'am, I did this course, but I can't remember anything of what I learnt. There's something wrong there. Learn for the sake of knowing and knowledge, not for just passing an exam and getting marks. Skills, pick up skills, learn something new. Learn a language, make sure you're good with computers. Everybody should know computers. Everybody, whether you're going into computers or not. It is the future. And a lot of other skills. Learn to get on with people. Learn interpersonal skills. Learn communication. And the ability to be constantly learning. Professor Bhaskaran had told you in the beginning, yes, this is a university that encourages it. I'm so happy to hear that, because if you say, I'm 100%, I've learned, then that's the end. You will never develop and never grow. But you need to keep learning and changing. There are people who never completed university, but have found a job at 21. Well, Bill Gates is one example, Steve Jobs, nearer home, Dhirubhai Ambani. Wonderful examples we've had. Then others who got a job, but hate what they do, and let me tell you, I have plenty who come to see me. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, hate what they do. Recently I had a young lady who was in IIT Delhi doing 3rd year engineering. I hate it, ma'am, she said. I don't even want to continue studying. So, there is something that you need to start thinking about now. There are still others who are so sure what they want to do, but change their minds at 26. So, you need to have skills that can carry you through, even if you decide to change your mind. No, nothing wrong to change your mind, but have skills that you can use. To create meaningful lives, you need to use your talent, build value for yourself. You are the person who's going to go out looking for the job. So make sure when you present yourself to an employer, you can give him or her something that you have of value, not just a piece of paper. Value that can hold good and make not only for yourself, but also make an impact in the lives of others. And this, I believe, is the true meaning of success. And nobody who epitomizes it more than this young man on the screen. From nowhere, look at where he's got just through sheer talent and passion. You mentioned it, Professor, like Vikas had, and you will see it in many of the people who are successful, is passion. So each one of you can also be successful. Dream big, create that passion, and if you have that, I'm sure you'll have a very successful future. Thank you. Are there any questions?
The question is that what is your take on architecture as a career?
Not very paying in the first couple of years, and you have to be prepared for it. So if you go into architecture, don't go in with wanting to make a lot of money. But if you look at a world, and particularly a country which is constantly building, you need architects. So hopefully they will be able to get the recognition that they deserve. But even then, you can still have a very meaningful and successful career in architecture, so long as your expectations are realistic.
The question is, considering the high cost of education in Indian private institutes and compared to abroad, like what is your take for undergraduate studies? But in US and all, that cost is around 1 crore plus, and in India. So
While I know private institutes are expensive, but I believe you need to pay for an education. If you want good quality teachers, you want good quality infrastructure, money has to come from somewhere. Someone has to pay. Now, for those who don't and can't afford to pay but are qualified students, I think most institutes do have scholarship schemes that provide for it. But too long we've survived under a system. DU, you pay 120 rupees for a term. So within 500 rupees, you get your whole education for 3 years, which I think is ridiculous. The state should not subsidize higher education. Schooling, you pay much more for school fees than you go for college education. The whole thing is skewed. So while I don't say everybody can afford huge fees, but where you feel you're getting value, I think it's worth it, even if you have to take a loan. Worth it because if you get a good job after that, you can more or less cover those fees. So even if you go into engineering colleges today, even the IIMs or the IITs, you will be paying a reasonably high cost, even in government institutes. So I think one should be prepared now for paying a little more for higher education if you feel you're getting the value for it. The important thing, I think, with all institutions, and this is, there are private and private. There are lots of private institutes that are, just money-making ventures. You need to be able to identify, and I think for each institute, do a little homework. Find out about the institute, who set it up, what is their whole mission statement, what is their faculty like, what has been the achievements of the faculty, also what are their placements. Where are those who have alumni, what are they doing, talk to them if you can. You'll get a sense of how good that institute is. Visit the institute, meet people, then you can understand whether that's worth putting your money in and having the education. The problem I know in this country, A-grade institutes are very few. There are very few A-grade, and B-grade are not there at all. The B-grade in India are really bad. So many students tend to think, and parents, it's better for my child to go abroad than to study at a B-grade institute in India. But if you go abroad, getting into an A-grade is also hugely expensive. And today, studying abroad is not what it was even 10 years ago. No country actually allows you to stay on after you've been. So if you're studying there and coming back to work, it's a huge cost. And you, even in 40 years of working, you won't be able to pay back 1 or 2 crores minimum that you have to pay for a basic education. So you need to think of it from that point of view. What kind of value are you getting? And therefore, are you better off doing extra courses? Maybe you can go out to do a postgrad or a 1-year, 2-year program or something abroad, so you get a little more than what you actually want to do. But the basic degree in India, if you can get into a good institute, is still worthwhile.
Economics subject.
Yes.
And I completed B8 with economics and also MBA with HR. But I want to be an economist. So how can I complete it? I don't know, ma'am.
No, you've got to do an MA in economics. Have you done your MA in economics?
No, ma'am. I have no MA, only MBA with HR.
No. Well, the MBA in HR is slightly different from an economics. So if you want to make a specialist career in economics, you have to go back to economics and study economics.
Okay.
Do an MA and a PhD.
Yeah.
That's the only way of getting back into economics. You would have studied something in your MBA, and some economics courses may give you credits for what you've studied in an MBA, and so therefore you may not have to do a complete 2-year program. But there aren't too many institutes in India that give you, credits for what you might have studied. But that you might have to work out on a personal level. Okay?
Biochemistry as a subject and about its prospects in India and abroad. And the other thing, just out of curiosity, I want to ask you, what is your take on public relation?
Public relations. Okay.
If you can tell me. I know these two are two completely different things, but I would like you to tell me.
Biochemistry is an excellent life science. And if you're doing biochemistry, you can either move into an area of applied areas in biochemistry, like you go on to polymers or plastics or those kind of areas, any chemical compounds in development or research, development areas, more in the applied areas. Alternatively, you can go into research, do an MSc in biochemistry, and then go on to other areas. As you know, biochemistry is the life of any it's a life science. So you need a base of understanding of biochemistry before you go into anything which is, living organisms that require any study. So that could be one way of looking at it as a research and development. But more than that, biochemistry is more an academic subject. It's not subject that normally many people would go into to do a practical application job, unless you are really looking at specific areas where biochemistry applies. It could be even pharmaceuticals, biotechnology areas, but mostly it is an academic and research thing. Of course, there are people who've done biochemistry, BSc, and then gone on to do an MBA, but then they then look at it as a base degree, which is like a general base degree. As far as public relations is concerned, public relations is an area of communication. It's a tool used by companies to propagate or publicize some of the activities that they do, and it's another surrogate way of doing advertising. And those who go into public relations, today there's a lot of scope because a lot of companies want organizations or people who can give them publicity or talk about their programs. And so you need to have good communication skills and be able to write well. A lot of them require that kind of work. And public relations is done through events and through media and marketing kind of platforms.
I'm a father of twins, a son and a daughter, studying in class 12 now. Have taken PCM and PCB as the respective subjects. But from my son's perspective, who has taken PCM, he every day has a query for me in terms of that if I don't clear IIT mains, what will happen to me? Or what at IIT Advanced, JE Advanced, what happens to me? And the best answer I can give to him, being in academic fraternity, is that you have a lot of options, like you suggested that there are a lot of career options. But my question is that the peer pressure or the environment in which they have going to school and the pressure, what is the best way to deal with them in that sense? What will be the best suggestion we can give to them?
Let's say in general, IIT only takes in 16,000 candidates every year. Only. Now, to expect to be one of the 16,000 is good, but there could be any number of reasons, none of them just merit, on which you won't get selected. So don't put all your hopes on an IIT. There are many other institutes of repute in engineering, if engineering is what you want to do, that you can still do as well. And I think a prime example is the head of Microsoft today never went to an IIT. He went to Manipal. Do you know that? Do you know who's the head of Microsoft today? Satya Nadella. He never even went to IIT. He went to Manipal. The person who set up Infosys, Narayan Murthy, never went to a IIT at undergraduate. He did it at a postgraduate level. So getting into an IIT is no doubt excellent, but may not be possible for any number of reasons. So tell him not to just pin his hopes, and don't drop a year and try again next year either. Please don't do that. Because if you don't get in next year, and there's even greater chances, I have yet to come across a student, any of the students that have come through me, who have dropped a year and actually succeeded the following year. So take what is the best option he would get, and if he is an IIT kind of a person who's likely to get, I'm sure there'll be excellent alternative institutes that he'll be able to get into for engineering. And today there's a lot of scope in this statistical institutions, and you can get into the ISI to work there. Plus, a lot of statistics is now going into data analytics work. And that's an area which is growing hugely, what they call big data. So that is if you're good with statistics, that could be a good possibility for anybody who's done statistics. Okay? Okay, so with that, we'll close. If you have anything further, you're most welcome to get in touch with me. And to all of you young students, I wish you a great future. Don't worry. Just look within you what you can do well and make the best of the opportunities that are available. And I'm sure you'll all do brilliantly. Thank you very much. Thank you to GD Goenka, in particular, Kim Menezes, Dean of the School of Management. She's been very patient organizing this with me over the last couple of weeks. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of you to be here.